Hello everyone and welcome to Riverside Crafts this afternoon. I'm going to be looking at distress oxides and how I blend them to get different backgrounds to use for my card making. So I'll just show you what I'm aiming for first so you can see how I've used them with the cards. This one is a blended background. It goes from sort of an orangey tone right the way through to a deep red. This die here is by Riverside Crafts. And this bit, the words are actually out of the waste off of the die from Creative Expressions. They are from this die here. So I kept the words when they die cut out, and I've used them on my other card. As you can see, this background is got all sorts of colours going through it. Sort of looks like fireworks are going off behind it. This is another die. This one is by Riverside Crafts, and I've got a nice speckled background here, and I've lifted the colour off to give you the moon. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I do this, and I'm going to be using oxides as you expect them in the pad, like this, but also the oxide sprays, and I'm going to show you how I blend those so you can see them in both ways. I'm using stamping card. It's not super smooth and it's not a mixed media card. It is just literally bog standard basic white stamping card. Nothing too fancy here. Now when I'm using my oxides, I don't use a blending brush. I don't need to, because oxides blend really easily. They're much easier to blend than what your distress inks are. So I thought I'd start off first with the background that goes from sort of oranges to reds, so you can see how easy they are to maneuver. So when you're putting them on, as you can see, they're already, you don't tend to leave big circles behind you. Can you see how it just gives you a really smooth finish straight away? You're not really having to add in lots of other colours. This one, by the way, is Spiced Marmalade, which is a lovely rich orangey yellow, which is a really nice colour to start off with. So as you can see, I've got a really nice blend there, not too many problems at all. Okay, and I'm just going to add in some red a bit lower down. This one's Candied Apple. I'm going to turn it round because I'm going to pick up the orange that I've already got there and move it across. Now I'm wearing gloves because otherwise my hands look like I've been in the paint pots all week, because they just pick up so much colour. So rather than me having hands that look like I've been painting all week, it gives me a bit of a chance to go out, and when I go out, and sort of semi-try to look reasonable rather than covered in ink and paint for a change. Now I've got a bit of a line, so what I'm going to do is, with the blending tool that I used with the red, I'm just going to go through the middle here for a minute and just gently sort of take out that bit, put this one back, and I'm going to pick my orange one up and just blend again down in towards the red. Can you see how I get that really nice sort of colour change? There's no definite line. It doesn't look a mess. I'll just clear up the extra ink. If I was doing it for other reasons, then I would have actually probably spritzed that and pulled up different colours. But as you can see, you can lay your die cuts onto this and it looks beautiful. It gives you a really nice sort of sunset behind what you're working on, so it's quite a nice finish. Gives you a nice sort of soft finish. And I hope you're all doing well. I'll just see if I can see anybody who's there. So I'm going to say hello to Alison and Sue and Rosalind and Kath, and I hope that you're all okay. If there's anybody else up there, I will say hello again. But it's very difficult reading my phone upside down, and since I use that as my camera, I'm going to use that as my excuse for today anyway. So I hope you like how that blending looks. It's very easy to do that, and it gives you a nice background colour. We're going to look at doing a little bit more blending, but with more colours. So we're going to be bringing a couple of other colours in as well. So I've got a purple here and a blue. And again, I'm going to use a little bit of lime green on the bottom. So I'm going to start off with a bit of purple. And I'm literally just going to sort of just put it through the middle here. Not particularly worrying about what I'm doing. It's just going to go along across. Okay, I'll put my lid back on. There's nothing majorly exciting happened. It's just a big splodge of purple. I'm going to go across here now like this with my blue, and I'm gradually going to blend the two colours into each other. Okay. I'm going to do this side here. As you can see, they all start to work in together, and you lose those sort of really rough blended edges. Okay, so that's my sky done quite nicely. That will work really well. I'm just going to put a little bit of grass on. Okay, so I'm just going to do my grass here, just taking it up. And that's going, just plodding around like so, which makes that sort of quite easy. Now it's quite pretty as it is, and you can just literally put your on it as it is without doing too much. But one of the really good things about oxides is you can lift them. And when I mean lift them, I mean you can spritz it with water, a bit of kitchen towel, and you can actually lift the ink back. So I'm going to show you how I do that. First of all, I'm just going to spray it onto my fingers because I want a few bigger drops. So that will give me a couple of the bigger drops because I want some bigger drops on it. That's it. So I've just spritzed it. It's got a few drops hanging around, some different sizes. Let it settle for a moment. Okay, then go back in with a kitchen roll and just tap it over what you've done. And what it'll do is it'll lift spots off, and it makes it look like a starry night. I'll just lift that up so you can see it a little bit more. You see how you've got that really nice sort of effect that makes it look like a starry night. Now, if you want to make it so it looks like you've got a moon, you want a dauber with a sponge on it. Just put some water on your mat. Get the sponge a little bit wet. Don't get it over wet, but you want it wet. Put it down where you want it. Give it a bit of a jiggle. And then you're just going to lift the colour off. And you've got yourself a nice big round moon. Okay, so you're not having to try and mask things, you're just lifting it off. So if you wanted now, if I say I put my horses along there we go, I've got a really effective background there for my horses, or for my car to go along. So it just changes it all completely, which is quite a nice way to give you a background, and quite easy to do. But it's quite sort of sparkling and bits. But if you don't have oxides like this, you might have them, or you might have bought a spray and like, well, I don't know, can I still do this? And the answer is yes. So just give them a good shake. Make sure when you have your oxide sprays, you shake them really well. Okay, I'm just going to take that sponge off because that's got quite a bit of water on it. I don't want it a wet one at the minute. Now, they do spray really well, okay? But just the same as before, you can just put your blending tool in and move it around. Okay, so just because it's on a spray doesn't mean that it won't work and you can't blend it out. Okay, so you can still blend it out quite nicely, and it works nicely. Okay, and you can still do the lift. So you've got a nice blue background. Okay, just a minute. I'll put me wet sponge on it a minute and just give it a bit of a jiffle. Okay, I'll leave that just a second for it to lift a bit. There you go. Still do the lift there. Okay, nice bit of shake. There we go. Again, go in, lift some colour off, and I've got another starry night. Okay, so even your sprays will do this effect. So you're not sort of suddenly thinking, oh no, it doesn't work. It will work. So you can have your silent night or working really well. This is a Creative Expressions die, and they cut beautifully, as do the Riverside Crafts ones, I have to say. I'm really impressed with how they cut. This is another Creative Expressions one, and again, what a lovely Christmas card for you. It's just really pretty. These are the Riverside Crafts ones, and again, that works no problem. You can take it up higher and sort of decide where you would like your image to be on it. So you can really play. Silhouette dies give you so much time to play with your backgrounds and to create something that you probably hadn't really thought about doing. One of the other things that's quite nice to do is you can still do your blending with your oxides and your ink pads, and then you can add on top with the sprays, which gives you a slightly different feel. The reason that things work differently with the oxides is because they are a matte opaque finish, which is why they blend a little bit easier, because you're covering what is below. Okay, so they just work a bit easier because of that. They're more matte. As I said before, I'm not using any posh card. This is bog standard white stamping card. You can use any white card. I wouldn't use a textured one because it makes it more difficult for it to finish, because you struggle to fill the texture in, if that makes sense. Okay, getting this to come in like so. Here we go. One of the other things that's quite cool to do with your oxides is with the stencils. We've got some beautiful stencils in at the moment from Creative Expressions. This is one of them. With either a wet wipe or something that's damp, a damp cloth, whatever it is you've got in your hand that you've got there, you can actually lift some of that colour out of your background for you. So whatever it is you've just blended in, you can lift it out. Okay, and create yourself a really different background again to go behind your what you've worked on with using the stencils. And it's not a particularly messy or a dirty play, if that makes sense, because sometimes I get in a real mess with my when I'm doing this, because I absolutely love to play, but oxides let you do things quite neatly. You don't get everything all over the place. Okay, so that was, just wanted to show you how to do a lift through a stencil, so that was a nice one. We've done the moon. I'm just going to do another spritzy one and blending it out, because it's nice to see it done, and I think it helps you to understand. This is the Speckled Egg, and I'm going to use two slightly different colours on this one. So I've got one spritz there in one colour, and then this is one of the other new ones that came out, which is Salvage Patinas. Because what I've done this time around with the new colours is I bought the colour in the distress ink, or I bought the spray, or I didn't go out and buy everything, because I just didn't want to be too much stuff in my way, if that makes sense. Right, got a fairly clean one. I'm just going to blend it a bit. Just going to take the two colours around and just sort of mix them in a little bit, and see how we go. But because it's a spray and it's wet, it allows you to sort of really fiddle with it quite a lot. You can move it quite well. Now, if you've got everything too wet, what you'll get is that pilling on the card, so it'll make it look a bit sort of scruffy. This is one of the other new colour that came out, Prize Ribbon, and it's a really beautiful deep blue. I'm just going to put a little spray on there. Okay, all right, lift that up away from the spritzer and clean up my mess. I'm just going to leave that to dry for a minute, because I want to show you how that looks now, again, with something else behind it, because it just gives you a totally different feeling when it's a spray. Again, you get that beautiful colour coming through, and you've got that bit of spray. But if you add another colour, a colour that you probably wouldn't think of in your night sky, like the pink, which looks really pretty, just put a bit of pink on it. Okay, I'm just going to lift some of that off because there's quite a lot on there, so we're just going to lift a bit off and take the same one back, and you've got an amazing sky now coming up behind. You've got the pink giving you the bright lights, you've got this beautiful dark coming in, and it looks really pretty. It really changes it for you. And you can do exactly the same again as what we did earlier, and we can just put a little bit of water over it. Get some on my fingers so I've got some nice big drops coming. Okay, and we can go back in and we can lift some off again, so we can change it. If we think, oh, that's too dark, you can lift it. All right, so it's not difficult to do, and you can't really go wrong because you can take some of the colour back again, which is quite nice to do. Okay, I'm just going to go back and do the blending, a couple of blending ones again, just so you can see how quickly and easily it blends. So I'm going back in with my orange. Okay, and I'm just going to come back along here. One of the things that's quite useful to do is when you are using a blending tool is actually put it down at a slight angle. Don't put it flat and try and do circles. Have it so that you've got one edge on and one slightly off. So actually what you're hitting with is at a slight angle, and that will give you that feathered feeling rather than giving you the big circles on things if you're not sure. So you should go slightly at an angle. Okay, so that's my orange on. Let's put some nice red in. Again, this one's the Candied Apple. Turn it round. Hold on to it. Just dry my fingers, otherwise I'm going to get wet fingers on everything, which you don't want. Again, I've got my blending tool at a slight angle. I bet you can hear my dog wandering around with his feet on the wooden floor. He's just decided that it's time to get up and start moving. He's been snoring all day, so I thought I'll leave him in his bed because he's not going to make any noise, and now he's having a wander around. So more for me, I think. Okay, so I'm just going to mix those two colours in gently using the blending tools that they sort of move in seamlessly. Right, now this time I'm going to spritz it because I want to show you what it looks like when you've lifted these colours. Give it a good shake, and then you'll get some of the bigger spots come through, and it's the big spots that help make it look really good. Okay, all right, so I'm just going to lift it off again. So now I've got some in my red. I'm going to put a little bit more on because it didn't lift as much as I wanted, so I'm just going to put a bit more on. If you do don't press it, your sprayer so far down, you'll get bigger splots, which will take more off for you. There you go. Okay, so that will take more colour off for you. But now looking at that, when you've got, it gives you a much better and more sort of like a starry nights coming through in the evening already. Some really beautiful colours. Again, we can lift it off. So I'm just going to wet my dauber again. Just going to take some of the excess colour off it because it's got a bit of colour on it from something else. I'm not pressing down when I do this. I just give it a slight jiffle so the whole thing catches, but I don't press down because if I press down, I'm going to get water seepage from out the other edge, and that's not what I really want. So that, can you see how that's giving you a really nice gentle background? So when we're looking at backgrounds for what we can do, if we just go back with the ones I started with, we can just do a basic blend, which was that one. but look at how different it now looks with a few water spots and we're lifting some out for where the moon would be. It really puts more interest in the work. So that's that one. That is just using a spray and it works just the same. One of the things that's quite interesting is, because that's been sat there now for a little while, I can still go back in and spray it and we just leave it for a few minutes. Okay, and then I can go back off and take more off. So you can have done your background a couple of hours early with your blending and then go back to it and it will still lift. Okay, doing the stencil lift using it sort of when it's a wet cloth, which gives you a different sort of finish for something, a bit more interest. Blending your multiple colours through and then lifting up, and that's just using the oxides out of the pad because it helps you to get a more natural feel to what you're looking at. So it feels like you've got the hedgerows behind him and the night sky coming in, or you've got the field there just showing before you sort of got that beautiful sky coming in. Okay, and there is that one. Now, the last one I want to show you is how I put clouds on. So how I make it look like it has clouds. All right, so let me just get me a piece of card off. All right, and I'm going to go in using this blue, which is Faded Jeans. It's a bit cooler today, which is quite good because it was a little bit warm yesterday, just a little bit. Right, so I've now got this blue quite nicely. I'm going to put me moon on. It's going to be quite yellow by the looks of it today. Not very wet. Just do a little, just go over it again. Hopefully I'll get in the same area. That's a bit better. Okay, so we're going to lift that up. All right, so that looks, I've got my moon in, which is nice. Now, when I want to make it look like I've got clouds, I have a scrumpled piece of kitchen roll. I spritz on my table, and I'm going to use my scrumpled kitchen roll to give me my clouds that are going across. Okay. If I think actually I need to lift more, then I will just put a little bit more on my kitchen roll and go back in and lift off some more. And I can gradually lift off however much it is I would like to be as I'm going along. And if I want to lift more, I can. Okay. And this will make it more look like clouds than what it does. Now, if you don't have circle blenders, your other way to make your moon is to have a penny or a 2-penny piece wrapped up in either a baby wipe or a cloth. Make sure it's wet, and then you can just put that on. Give it a bit of a jiffle again, only a little bit. Don't press too hard, and it will lift it off for you quite nicely. There we go. I've just started to lift some off now. You see how it's lifting it off and giving me some clouds. So I'm no longer now in a solid block of colour. And the more I work it, the more old clouds I will get. So I can go in and get it sort of a lot more off if I want to. And that if I'm wanting it to look a bit more. And then I just need to go and lift the colour. Okay, so I've got some nice clouds coming in now. So it's just a matter of playing with it. And then when you put your, that one's not so good, it wants to be this one, so you can see the sky, and you can see your sky coming through and giving across with what you're doing, and it gives you a really nice finish. Well, that's a quick play with oxides today. Doing a few backgrounds, something a bit different. So I'll just go making your clouds, using your oxides and spritzing them to give yourself your colour, blending multiple colours together, and then lifting, using a wet rag to lift through a stencil, spritzing and blending it from the spray all the way across, and then lifting straight, just blending two colours together to give you sort of sunset, and then a sunset with some lift on it. And overall, when you actually look at a finished card, I think they look quite spectacular. They give you a really nice finish, for not too much work, which is very good when you're doing Christmas cards. So thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you again another time. Next week, I'm going to be doing something slightly different while I'm thinking about it. I'm going to be looking at doing paint pouring for cards. So if you'd be interested to see how I made this, join me next week and I'll show you what I was doing to create this beautiful card. And these work fabulously for the men in your life, the teenagers, those ones where you're like, I have got a clue. They don't have a hobby and I don't know what to do. This works fantastically, and when it's not a lot of paint that I use, so when you come to join me next week, you'll get to see. So thanks a lot, everybody, and take care. Have a nice weekend. Bye bye.